You're listening to an archived Cabral Concept podcast. After listening to this show, check out the most up-to-date podcasts available at stephencabral.com/podcasts or search directly on iTunes. And now, welcome to the Cabral Concept, where board-certified naturopath and integrative health practitioner Dr. Stephen Cabral shares how he was diagnosed at the age of 17 with a life-altering illness and given no hope for recovery. It was only after studying and traveling all over the world did he discover how to combine ancient Ayurvedic healing practices with state-of-the-art naturopathic and functional medicine to fully rebalance the body and re-energize it with life. It's time to discover how to get well, lose weight, and finally feel alive again. And now, here's your host, Dr. Stephen Cabral.
Thank you for joining me on this Motivation and Mindset Monday. Hopefully, we've got a great show for you today. It's one of my favorite analogies that I do like to share, especially when I'm trying to teach people and coach people through certain areas of their life or times in their life, I think would be a better way to say it. And one of the reasons why I say this is that we don't seem to always move in this like really straightforward progression in life. Meaning like every day every day we're progressing because we're trying to take a step forward. But we come upon certain obstacles, maybe every couple months, maybe every 6 months, or maybe every couple years where we're almost forced to either take a giant step forward, which gets very, very uncomfortable, right? Because it's moving us out of our comfort zone, or almost take a step back. Meaning like we either reach for our potential, we take a step forward, whether it's making that leap in a career, a relationship, maybe taking a relationship to that next level, or maybe getting uncomfortable in that relationship and trying to say, okay, this is where we're at right now. I know we've gotten comfortable here, but what we need to do if we want to really survive, if we want to really thrive as a couple, we need to start opening up communication. That's going to be uncomfortable because we've never done that before, but that might be the step that you need to take. The same thing with your health. You might be skating by, right? Your blood work looks okay, but there's a bunch of things that your doctor says we need to keep an eye on this, right? Blood pressure is starting to raise a little bit, or blood sugar levels, hemoglobin A1C, maybe it's cholesterol, maybe it's your autoimmune factor, whatever it might be. And again, weight's starting to creep up, starting to get, bigger clothes size, those types of things. And again, you can kind of skate by for a year or 2 years or whatever it might be. But here's the thing. Eventually, we get to this point where we either need to take that big jump, we need to change, or we need to take a step back. And so what we like to do in our conventional medicine wisdom, this goes for conventional medicine in terms of health, or I call it sick care, or psychology, which a lot of time is sick care as well. Now, believe me, I don't want to be insensitive to this particular issue, meaning that when someone is severely depressed, would it make sense for a short period of time if they're suicidal or something's going on and they can't pull themselves out of it, that they might need some medication to help them because they might be in danger? I'm okay with that. I really am. And here's why. I'm pro-human. I'm pro-people. And if right now you're in a really bad spot, and yes, you know you need some counseling, yes, you know you need good supplements, you know you need to get your food back on track, but you can't do it yet, and you're in a bad spot in your life, okay, temporarily understand, right? I totally understand that. And that's what I tell the people who come to see me in my practice is that, hey, this is where you're at right now. I don't want you to come off your medication. That's not the best plan. The best plan is to rebalance your body. That's the best plan. And then makes the medication obsolete. But here's what we do in our society. Our society is you come in with the high blood pressure, we medicate. You come in depressed, we medicate. You come in with high cholesterol, we medicate. You're on a statin. You come with acid reflux, okay, you're on Prilosec, and that's it. You didn't have to make a change. So what happened was your body's screaming out to you, something is wrong. We're doing something wrong. Something is imbalanced. I have acid reflux when I eat. I have high cholesterol. I have high blood pressure. My blood sugar is getting high. We need to do something different. That's the point of the symptom. The symptom is our body telling us, hey, here's what's going on. You should course correct. You should fix this before something else gets even worse, because it will get worse. Meaning, even if you take the medication, well, it's just like playing peekaboo. You put a Band-Aid over it. It doesn't mean that the inflammation has been squelched, and it doesn't mean the underlying root cause causing that inflammation has gotten better, because it hasn't. Now it's just hidden. And again, the same thing with deep levels of anxiety. Anxiety a lot of time is fear-based, right? We're anxious about something happening that we don't want to have happen. Or we have a fear of change and we become very, very anxious. Now, that can be a biochemical-based anxiety, meaning like it can be poor neurotransmitter production, GABA, serotonin. Maybe there's gut-based dysfunction. There's SIBO, there's IBS, there's Crohn's, there's colitis, there's candida overgrowth. Sure, that could happen. Or maybe there's mineral imbalance, meaning like magnesium-based deficiencies, imbalance between sodium and potassium, high levels of cortisol. All of these things can happen. Of course, you can test those, and we give you links all the time in the Cabral concept to test those. I'm not going over that today. So here's the thing, though. But anxiety can also be, okay, I'm worried about if my kids are going to the best school. I hear that a lot, or in the right school for them. I'm worried if we should live in that city or this city. I'm worried about my relationship. I'm worried about my health. I'm worried about all of these things, and it's causing me anxiety, okay? So the worry is okay. The worry is actually a survival-based mechanism. It's when we can't turn off the worry that we can't actually come to a conclusion, a way of overcoming this, that becomes the bigger issue at hand. I want to do today is give you one of my favorite analogies ever, and I don't believe that I came up with this because I'm not the king of analogies by any means. That's not my forte whatsoever. But one of the most beautiful analogies that I was ever shared and given is the lobster. The lobster, when it has to grow. This goes for any crustacean, which are like shrimp and krill and crabs and lobsters. They have a hard shell, which is called an exoskeleton. And, me kind of growing up, I've been going to Maine my whole life since I was a little kid, as far as I can remember, being able to see lobsters and crabs and, all these things and wondering how they get from a really small lobster to a medium size and then a large lobster when they have a hard shell, which the shell's not going to grow. So how does this happen? Well, what happens is that a lobster can molt. So basically it can shed itself of that shell somewhere around 10 to 20 times over its lifetime. And when it does that, how does it know? Well, it knows that it's time to grow. And in order for it to grow, it needs to leave behind its past shell, its previous shell. But in order to grow that new shell, what it needs to do, which is really, really important, is take pieces of that old shell. It draws a lot of calcium out of that former exoskeleton, out of that former shell. So it takes, as my analogy goes, it takes its previous knowledge, its past, its circumstances, draws it into its body. So it gets to hold on to those. But then it sheds that hard shell. Now, what does it do when it sheds that hard shell? It has to hide away. It's very, very interesting. This to me is where I'm making this analogy out of this. And maybe it resonates with you, maybe it won't. But what I've found is that when I'm at a tipping point, when I'm at a crossroads and I'm trying to figure out what do I do next, because I've never been to this next step. So I can't possibly know what to do. It's all guesswork. It's educated guesswork. So I'm drawing upon past experiences. I'm trying to hedge my bets. So, okay, well, if this goes wrong, this will probably happen. And if this goes right, well, that's exactly where I want to be going. And what I'm doing, though, is I'm actually, when I remove that shell, now the analogy is when you make that next step, when you get out of your comfort zone, you're vulnerable. Why are you vulnerable? It's because you're in uncharted territory, okay? If you start a new relationship, if you break up a relationship, if you have that uncomfortable conversation in your relationship so that you can move forward, so you become more productive, so you can have the relationship that you've always dreamed about. Same with health, same with weight loss. You're meeting with a new personal trainer, you're following their program, you're vulnerable, you don't exactly know because this is out of your scope. Okay, what you need to do at that point, this is what I always recommend. Again, I've talked about this before on a previous Mindset and Motivation Monday. And if these shows resonate with you, I can't recommend enough going into the StephenCabral.com/podcast and just type in MM. MM means Motivation Mindset Monday. That's the how we link those up basically. But what I'm essentially saying is this, is that when you're at your most vulnerable, when you've taken that next step, you need to take a little bit of a sabbatical. A couple weeks away from your typical friends, your family, your sphere of all the people that would talk you out of what you're trying to do right now. Okay? So if you're trying to go on a weight loss program and all your friends, they want to keep going out for drinks and fried food and all these things, and you know that that's not going to help you get to your goals. You know that in a couple weeks, you could do a cheat meal with them. For sure, you can still hang out with them, but you know right now, you need 2 or 3 weeks of sustained good eating with your exercise, with your movement, with your rest, with all those things that you need that in order to reach your goals. This means, though, that you also don't want people saying, oh, just have one drink. Oh, just have one bite. You don't need that in your life when you're trying to make a change. It's okay when you become better, right? When you become more comfortable with who you are. Just like the lobster, when it grows its new hard shell, now it has a protective outer layer. So once you get comfortable as the new you, then you can go meet all of those people that used to be in your circle. Because if they come at you with those little digs and all those different types of things that you know that they will, well-intentioned or maybe not, because they're trying to pull you back into their sphere, because they might not want to make the same change as you. So they try to make you talk yourself out of it, or you feel uncomfortable with you when you know it's the right decision for you. So, but once you have that you have that shell, that exoskeleton, that protective layer, now nothing can touch you. The thicker that shell gets, the harder that shell gets over weeks and months and years, no one's going to talk you out into something that you don't want to do that isn't right for you. Right now, and it wasn't always like this, I'll tell you that for sure. I could be at a wedding, I could be at a social event, I could be anywhere. And if it's not my night, if I haven't decided, you know what, I'm not drinking tonight. So I have rules, and I've talked about this again on Mindset and Motivation Mondays. I have rules I live basically in my life by. Now, they're not so rigid that I can't make a change if I don't want to. But if I'm seeing patients or wellness clients the next day, there's no drinking. There's just not. I have to be at my best for them. Again, I'm not going to go out and have 5 drinks in a night anyways. Those days are long gone. But let's say that I was at a fundraiser, social event, whatever it might be, on a Tuesday night. And I know from 7 to 7 the next day, I'm working with people. There is no way I'm going to potentially not be at my best by having a drink the night before. So what I do is I just say, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where I am. It doesn't matter who says what to me, because I'm strong enough now. I have enough self-confidence and enough self-image that I can just say, you know what? No, I'm not going to have a drink right now. And I'm drinking my soda water, my splash of cranberry, and my lime, right? People know, like, hey, that's my drink. And a lot of people are doing it right now and they're feeling good about it, right? Some people will question you, some people won't. Either way, I can go and have a good time because I've gotten more comfortable with me. And that's really what it's about. So today's show isn't necessarily about having to make major leaps in vulnerability. But what it is about is this, is that you, no matter who you are, everyone has to come to certain points in their life. And there might be 10 or 20 points in your life. That makes sense. 10 to 20 major obstacles, just like the lobster, major times where you need to shed the old you if you ever hope to move forward. I work with so many people right now from a health-based capacity. Okay. So many people from a health-based capacity. I work with a lot of moms. I work with a lot of busy CEOs, executives. I work with athletes. I work with musicians. And it's very interesting, very, very interesting, because after they get well, and they've essentially come so far, because when I work with someone, I don't say, take this supplement at all. Like, that is not the way that you work, I believe, with a true naturopath. And again, naturopath, no two naturopaths practice alike. That's just the way it is. But for me, I consider myself a teacher first. Everyone, whether they want to or not, is going to get an educational lesson when they speak with me. They have to know why they're doing it. And I think it's because of this that once they get well, they are so into the lifestyle of wellness. Now, again, it doesn't happen overnight, that they then want to share that with others. So I have so many moms, I have so many people looking at second careers of being a health practitioner or a health coach or a nutritionist or a personal trainer or whatever it might be. And I believe that's absolutely phenomenal. Can you imagine a world full of health coaches? Everybody trying to heal other people after they've already healed themselves. It's amazing. It's remarkable. But why does that happen? Well, it happens because they can no longer be the same person. They got well, but in the process of getting well, they healed their mind and body. They know now the dangers of eating like cow's milk that comes from these concentrated farming agricultural organizations that's basically of these diseased animals, and the inflammation, the omega-6s. They feed these cows any scraps that are left. They feed them soy and corn and grains, and believe it or not, Skittles. They feed them candy. They feed them antibiotics. And they do this to make them grow as large as humanly possible. Well, the milk that comes from them is absolutely as sick as they are. And so when they start to learn these things, they feel a need, like I do right now. I feel a need to share this with you. And why did I get into the position that I'm in right now? Simply because of this. Like, for me, this is my life's mission. It just took so long to get where I am today. And I don't want anybody to have to go that long. It took me forever to get well. And that, really the hardest case in the world shouldn't really take more than 4 to 6 months. Now, it doesn't mean that like you're completely healed, but you're completely healed of symptoms. And then you're going to take the next 6 months or maybe a little bit longer to truly heal at a cellular level. And why would it take that long? Well, the truth is, again, you feel great. You feel amazing. Every day is better than the last. But what happens is this: your cells, your red blood cells, they don't turn over for 4 months, about 120 days. So every 4 months, basically 3 times a year for all cells, they're completely regenerized. They're completely new. And people say like, well, how is it possible that you're feeling better this year than you did last year? Because last year you went to health, and the year before that, and the year before that. I tell them this is because each year I'm compounding the effects of all the wellness things that I'm doing. So now my telomeres are growing longer. My mitochondria have grown to their probably max level now, which is amazing because before, when I had Addison's disease and I had Epstein-Barr and I had chronic fatigue syndrome and everything else that was going on in my life, right? Everything else, type 2 diabetes, inflammation, rheumatoid, you name it, acid reflux. I mean, I could go on, right? SIBO, candida. My body just shut down. I was vulnerable to everybody. People are like, how do you get sick from that many things? Well, when your body is that imbalanced, when you don't have a balanced immune system, right? And remember, your immune system is not necessarily faulty. It's just completely dysfunctional. So it's overactive in some areas, underactive in others. And it led me so deep down the rabbit hole of the information I needed to find out for me because my case was so bad that, again, in the end, now that I'm better, I can say this. Of course, during the time, it was a miserable time. But now I can say this, it was a blessing in disguise because I had to go so much deeper and on such a different path than I would have if I would have gone to, conventional MD medical school, that I wouldn't have been able to be on this path right now in life. And I just know that this is the path that I should be on. Every time I pick up this microphone to do a podcast, I feel like it's right. I just feel like that I'm in the right place doing the right thing. And it's hopefully at least helping a few people out there to be able for them to take the step forward to make the change in their life. And you don't have to get better tomorrow, but what you eventually have to do is get uncomfortable. I've said this many, many times before. You need to get comfortable with becoming uncomfortable. Eventually, you're going to get to the point where you say, you know what? I can't live like this anymore. I can't be at this weight. I can't be this type of unhealthy. I can't be in this relationship. I can't have this type of spirituality. I can't have this type of career. I need to move those things where I'm at now to a much deeper and better level. That does not mean blowing up your situation. People think that I say, oh, you need to switch careers. You don't. You can make your current career better. Right? You can make your current relationship better. Your current family better. You can do all of these things. Is it easy? No. That's what I'm talking about right now. The lobster actually has to literally swell itself with seawater, crack its own shell, and then start to regrow it as it's hiding away from predators. Believe me, this is not easy for anything in the world. It's not supposed to be, but it's absolutely worth it. And I'll tell you one other reason why it's worth it is this. Just like the lobster going through that, just like becoming vulnerable is a beautiful thing. It really is. It puts you into this strange situation where you become very vigilant about everything around you. Okay, which friends are the ones that are going to try to pull me back to the dark side to get me to go out and binge eat or binge drink? Who are those friends? You start to think about that. What about family relationships? Is it tumultuous? What's that look like, right? What's that look like around the holidays? And you start to really become aware of your life. And one of my biggest things that I preach is self-awareness. When you become more self-aware of how you act around certain people in certain situations with yourself when you're alone, with your own thoughts, you then can make the actual change that you need to become the person that you want to be. I think all of us, myself totally included with this, we have a vision for ourselves, a vision of who we want to be, our best self. I love that term. We want to be our best self because you know what? You can think of anybody else out there right now. I can never be them. I can't. I can only be my best self, which my best self, my best version is everything that I've accumulated in the past. It's all part of me and none of it is bad, right? I went through some strange things through childhood and adulthood. I've gone through, some sicknesses. I've gone through some injuries. I've gone through different things. But all of that, I wouldn't trade in the world because it's who it's made me today. And I have that as my experience and it's my unique experience. And that unique experience is how I now see the world. But I can also become so aware that I understand that not everything in my past serves me. I know that. Not everything was a good thing. Some of that needs to be rewired. I don't have to necessarily forget about it, but my interpretation of that event can now be different. I'm an adult now. I'm allowed to change my version of things that happened to me as a teenager or a child or things like that in the past, or even as an adult. It's my prerogative, my choice of how I want to see that. And part of that then, as you start to reframe it, as you start to change this, your vision for yourself, you then no longer be comfortable with the current you. You need to become a new you. You don't feel good about the state that you're at in your life. And when that happens, It is time to change. So how I want to sum this up for you today is that you don't need to change until there's a time to change, meaning that that's why the lobster isn't constantly shedding its shell every week or 2 weeks. What it's doing is growing to a point, okay, I've maxed out at this position in my life. Maybe you're going to read books over the next 6 months on philosophy or on NLP or on functional medicine or on digestion or on whatever it might be, right? Whatever. Maybe you're studying for certain certifications in your career. Well, you don't actually need to plan your career, like where you're going to open your office, until you actually start to actually take those certifications, right? And you have to study for that first. So what I'm saying is there are different points. Think about this. In order for you to have to get to that uncomfortable point, you need to have a vision for yourself. So think about that vision of what you want. And first, pick one area of your life first. It's so much easier. The relationships, the spirituality, the career, the health, or the body-based transformation, right? Pick one first. Do yourself a favor. Just pick one just for a moment. Master that. It will give you incredible self-confidence to then know that if you can accomplish one, well, you can accomplish any other of the ones that you want because it's the same process. And again, you can go back through my Mindset and Motivation Mondays to give you that process as well, okay? So here's the thing. Once you have the vision for yourself, start to work towards it. You will get to the point then where you say, okay, now is the time I need to actually put forth that action. I need to schedule the exam. I need to study for it. I need to open the office. I need to ask the person out to dinner, whatever it might be. That's the acting. That's what you need to do. At that point, you shed the shell. You become vulnerable to whatever that is because the vulnerability means you might fail the exam. Your first business might not work out. The relationship might not work out. All these things might not work out. But here's the thing. Just saying yes to it, just moving forward is enough. Meaning that the first time never has to work out because what happens is you can learn from that experience. You can then recalibrate, figure out what you did wrong the first time, take a step back, reassess, and then say, okay, this time I'm going to be smarter about it, right? This time, here's why I'm going to lose the weight. This time, here's why I'm going to achieve my health goals, and so on and so forth. So it's at that point, remember, when you take that first step, get really clear, get really quiet, give yourself a little time alone, just with your trusted people. Tell them, okay, I'm just taking a little time off. I'll be back in 2 weeks. I'll be back in 3 weeks, whatever it might be. You'll be a better person for it. I really know you will. And here's why. I've been through the same thing many, many times in my life. It seems like almost once a year or every 18 months, I would say more like 18 months, I go through the same type of thing in my life where I'm just saying like, am I good where I am right now? And again, I am. But here's the thing, I don't leave what I'm currently doing right now. I've always been doing the same thing. Honestly, from 18, 19 years old, I've been in the health and fitness industry. I just keep building on top of it. But what I'm saying is my growth is continuing within the same sphere. Now, that's just my work. Again, relationship-wise, my wife and I, we had our first child 5 years ago. I have a 3-year-old now as well. So myself and my family have also taken more precedent in my life. So I need to make sure that I'm home at a certain hour. Before, it didn't matter. My wife and I were both working, all those things. You put the onus on different areas of your life when it's needed. And that's the thing right now. Get really clear on one thing that you need to achieve this coming 2018. I'm going to be talking about so much about how I want you to have your best 2018 yet. I'm telling you right now, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure that all of us, each of us included, myself included, that everyone in our community has their absolute best year yet in 2018. I'm going to make that my mission. And if it's your health, relationship, career, body transformation, spirituality, whatever it is, we're going to make sure that you achieve that goal. I'm telling you right now, that is going to be my work over 2018 to make sure we all move forward over the next 12 months. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into another Cabral Concept and Motivation and Mindset Monday. As always, if this show helped, please do help me spread the message. Pass this podcast on to anyone you believe it could serve. Before you go, I wanted to ask you this question. What if I could teach you in just a couple of hours how to transform your thyroid, hormones, adrenal, cholesterol, blood pressure, blood sugar, weight loss, energy, mood, brain, pregnancy, anti-aging, or many other health-related issues? After 20 years in private practice, after seeing and overseeing 250,000 client appointments, I sincerely feel I have the real-world data and have found the answer you've been searching for. So what I've done is spent hundreds of hours of my own time refining what you need to know in order to uncover your underlying root cause health issues and then begin to rebalance the body and bring it back to a state of robust health and wellness. I'm going to teach you exactly what I do in my private practice so you can understand how you got here and now what you need to do in order to heal. You'll receive all of the important success checklists, protocols, and even ways to customize it to make the program fit your busy life. And you'll get all of this at a fraction of the price. Let me save you the time, money, energy, stress, and frustration of not knowing what to do next. Instead of reading dozens of books on the topic and seeing multiple practitioners, I will condense everything that you need to know in just a few hours of video tutorials that you can watch and listen to anywhere. Together, we will make this healing process an enjoyable one that you can take with you for the rest of your life. I wish you all of the best of health and happiness, and I hope to be able to guide you on your healing journey through my Health Results Accelerators. Simply choose the health imbalance you're currently suffering from, and by the end of today, you'll know what went wrong and how to get well again. I guarantee it. For details, head over now to stephencabral.com/courses.